What is going on, everybody? And in this video I'm going to be revisiting the Porsche 911 GT3 RS RD Limited Edition, which I think might have been one of the hardest cars to actually use before this update. And to be honest, from the testing I have done, even with the C3 in yesterday's video, I'm going to say that the Porsche is still going to be a pretty difficult car to use, and I just don't see a lot of players using this, especially when we have cars like the Mitsubishi here that was not part of the update, and the Cadillac as well, which we can all agree these cars really do not need that anyway. But I wanted to take another look at the Porsche 911 because back in the day I would consider this car to be one of the best overall rallycross vehicles in the game because it was quote-unquote really fast, which honestly I could see that as well. But now driving this thing after this update, I personally do see why a lot of players do not like this vehicle. The build I'm running on the car basically remains the same as this vehicle was back in the day because I really did not see a point of changing the handling anymore once I got it to this point. This is one of those vehicles I feel like that you'd end up jumping into a bunch of races and basically tweaking it every single time, and even then the car still wouldn't turn how you actually want it. I'll get into more about the stability of the Porsche in the race here in a second, but I do feel like this car is going to have some flaws to it even after the Season 6 handling update, but I still do think the handling is going to help the car just a little bit with how this thing used to slide out of itself literally all the time. But I have been wondering a lot recently, can some of these other rallycross vehicles compete with some of the better ones for that matter even after the handling update? So I figured let's jump into one of the overall best slash probably the worst vehicles in this class, because this is probably one of the hardest rallycross vehicles to drive. Even though it might be pretty dang fast in some ways, I do find this car very unstable, which is kind of unfortunate because, some cars are really fast and don't handle all that well. Some, might not have good stability and then have good speed. I notice this car is going to be pretty fast and handle sometimes, for the most part, then other times it completely loses itself around a lot of turns, and or even hitting the nitrous might be a bit of a problem on the Porsche, which I do think some of these cars are just going to fall into a pit and really never be looked at again, unless you absolutely have to use it in some type of summit or something like that. But anyway, let's jump into the race and I'll talk about this a little bit more. So one of the funniest things I found about the Porsche was the fact that back in the day, this car was somehow the best and the worst vehicle to use. I found myself trying to run this vehicle on a lot of the summits because I was like, that's got to be the best car. It's really fast. Doesn't handle that great, but maybe I can fix that by messing with the settings a little bit. But man, is that thing quick compared to basically all the other vehicles. Now, one thing I have to admit though, guys, is I do think it is a little bit better with this handling update than it was before. The point of it was to actually fix the vehicles with how they slide and all that. I do think it did fix this car just a little bit, but I'm just not finding this car all that fun to use as well even after it. Is it usable? Can you probably run in a summit? I would say you probably could, but I just don't think this car is all that great, to be 100% honest with you guys. And what was that, Edward? You need to fix your vehicle's handling. My goodness, that was terrible. Oh, really now? So one of the biggest things I did notice as well is the fact that this car just does not have good stability in any way possible, no matter what I can do to it. Even hitting the nitrous on this car can be kind of weird at times as well. Like, it just doesn't have good stability. And if you barely turn it, the car might start sliding or like losing traction really hard because, well, it is a rear-wheel drive vehicle, I would think. At least it's handling like one anyway. And that is one of the biggest issues I found with this. Like, if you try to compare this car to like the Cadillac, you're going to be very upset. Like, I would get really upset pretty fast because you're just going to see how much better one car is compared to the others. Is this probably the worst vehicle in the class? I wouldn't necessarily say that, but I would also say it's going to be pretty far up there. Now, I did mention that you could use this vehicle in summits, which I do think you probably could. I might end up trying it out in the future just because, trying to mix it up a bit and seeing what other cars really could accomplish and all that compared to some of the other better vehicles. And I also really hope I can catch Roy right now because, my goodness, this dude is gone. And I think that is a Fiat over there, which I might end up testing that car out as well. It's just kind of crazy because I do feel like this update is going in the right direction, but some of these vehicles are just so long gone, I just don't think you can actually save them, which is honestly kind of unfortunate because some of them are really fun to use, but when going against other vehicles, I know players might be wanting to like have more variety and like wanting to mix it up with different vehicles and all that, but they're like, man, can some of these other vehicles actually do good in these summits, and can they be, used? And I just don't really feel like this Porsche is all that great, but I do find the car pretty fun to use. Let me know what you guys think about this new handling update for the rallycross vehicles in the comments below. Do you plan on trying out the Porsche in the future, and what are some of the things you like about the handling, and what are some of the things you don't?